Coming up on the final Geno Auriemma show of the season, presented by UConn Health.
All the things that we've done the first 2 days, you know a little more than you did before. Now you got to try more than you did before. What I had in mind going into the season of how we would play and what ended up transpiring were two completely different things.
Highlights from the regular season, as well as the obstacles the team and their coaching staff had to endure.
There was the frustration of when are we going to be able to have one really good team playing instead of two teams.
Plus, a look ahead to the NCAA tournament and how the Hall of Fame coach thinks it could all shake out.
Don't ever watch a game and root against the team. Because the minute you do, that team will win and then they will kick your butt.
That and much more.
I don't know that if somebody keeps flunking a driving test, you just throw them the keys and say, hey, listen, go down to Hartford and bring me back a grinder.
On the Geno Auriemma Show. Coach, here we are for our final show of the season. And can you believe it?
No.
Before we look forward, let's look back. Heading into the season, what do you think the coaching staff was most concerned about or preoccupied with this group?
If you want to play and you want to contribute and you want to feel like you're a part of this, until you really know what you're doing, at least try really hard. At least sprint like these guys do. At least die trying. I think this particular group, most of the concerns were twofold. One, are our returning players, are they better? Or do they just think, well, because we had a great year last year, and even though we lost, are we just going to show up and do the exact same thing and think that that will be good enough?
Yeah, I know, I love that.
So that was number one. So we had to make sure that those four, plus Crystal especially, that those five were much, much better than they were last year. And then how do we incorporate 6 new players who we have no idea what to expect? I mean, I think we have a pretty good idea what to expect from Z and Tooley, but the other 4 at that time, we had no idea. It was a situation that we haven't had in a long, long time. Let's put it that way. Where we were trying to add that many new pieces to the mix.
How do you think that played out?
Not great. I'm losing my patience with you freshmen, not because you don't know what we're doing, but because you don't try. You don't even try to be good. I mean, what's great was we didn't lose a game. And in every big game when we had to play well, we played well. And every play that we had to make, we made big plays. Is that good? Yeah, I think that's great. What I had in mind going into the season of how we would play and what ended up transpiring were two completely different things.
Over the last 6 months, you've had moments of great frustration.
If I could have it my way, we would give every person that came tonight their money back. That was the most disgraceful effort I've seen at Connecticut in 32 years that I've been here.
And then also some moments of great pride.
Our kids are pretty good at making plays, They're growing up a lot. I wasn't sure we had this in us. We've grown up a lot. We've matured a little bit.
So how has this season been for you in coordinating all these new pieces?
There was a lot of both of those things, because there was the frustration of when are we going to be able to have one really good team playing instead of two teams. And then there was well, it doesn't matter, because you know what? We still take pride in being Connecticut, and when it's time to win, we know how to win.
Nurse 3-on-1 the other way. Behind the back, Crystal to Katie Lou.
So you have both of those things happening somewhat on a regular basis. And it made for an interesting year, let's put it that way.
Is there anything you look back at as a coaching staff that you wish you had approached differently or done differently?
One of the interesting things is that if you look at the minutes that our players played, it probably wasn't that much different than what it was last year. Because if you look at a majority of the games, our starters didn't play in the fourth quarter. So very rarely did any of them play over 30 minutes. What really you had to keep an eye on was sometimes in the biggest games when the adrenaline and the emotion and all that, it's not so much that you're out there for 30, 35 minutes running up and down. And there was a bunch of games where our starters played 40 minutes. So it's not the amount of time. Because that's it. If they 40 minutes, that's an easy practice for them. But all the other stuff that goes into it, just you feel drained at the end of a game. So that's what you're worried about. And I thought they handled it great. But in terms of actual minutes played, they probably were around the same amount as they were last season. No question about that. I just wish there were more times during the first, second, or third quarter when you could have really, in some of the really big games, given them a breather. And maybe we should have. I don't know. You know, there's this perception out there that, you know, hey, just throw people out there anyway. It doesn't matter whether they're ready or whether they're any good or whether they work hard or what. Just throw them out there and don't worry about it. That's how they'll learn. Well, you know, I don't know that if somebody keeps flunking a driving test, you just throw them the keys and say, hey, listen, go down to Hartford and bring me back a grinder. I don't know that I would trust somebody to do that. So, you know, it's not as easy as it sounds.
The Geno Auriemma Show is presented by UConn Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, team doctors for the UConn Huskies.
Let's go, this front interchange right here, let's go. The guy you dribble at, that's the guy who's getting a layup. You're not gonna be able to make that pass from over there to over there without getting it stolen. So you're coming this way. This guy doesn't know what the hell you're doing. Come on. You're cutting, he's gonna take away that cut. But that ball's never going over there. It's coming right from over here. Good. Good. She's going to bring it all the way up here to you. You're going to catch it here, go like this, and then you're going to dribble over here and give yourself a good angle. And every dribble's got to be a hard dribble to take you places, not like, whoop, and pick it up. That doesn't help you one iota. You go someplace with every dribble.
You've had some incredible individual performances across the board, but if you could pick a team MVP, who would it be?
It's hard to say. I mean, every year there's obvious choices of who, you know, who has the best statistics, you know, that kind of stuff. Some years it's not so easy. I talked to the team a lot this year about we're not good enough individually to be able to beat some of the best teams in the country, that all of our great wins have to come as a team, where some other teams maybe have one player that's the player that's going to win it for you. So for us, it's been someone different at different times. Good. Good. Complete passes, we score. The only time we don't score is when we throw the ball away. But I think the player who's been the most consistent since the beginning of the season has probably been Lou. She hasn't had some of the dips that some of the other players have had. So I would say probably Lou.
She contributes in a lot of different ways,
She does.
too.
Yeah, she does. She's able, because she's such a good shooter, that whenever we're struggling with something and we get her open, we kind of settle down. And then she's a really good passer. So when she knows that people are going to come after her when she catches it, she can find somebody for a layup or find somebody wide open. So when you've got someone, and she's big enough that she can see the whole court. Sometimes, it's hard to find one player that has all three of those qualities. And she seems to have those qualities.
Would you be surprised if she gets National Player of the Year? I know there's still a lot to be played
Would
here
I
in
be
March.
surprised?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be surprised because, there's this perception out there where you have all the best players. So I think sometimes when kids come here, they have to almost understand that you might not get some things that you think you deserve. And the trade-off is, you want to win an individual award or do you want to win a national championship? Well, ideally, you'd like to do both. And a lot of times, that's what happens here. But sometimes it doesn't. And, I think our players are pretty good with that. I just think every coach is biased. They all think their kid is the best. And that's why the one thing I always tell my players, don't get caught up in awards that people vote on. I can't tell you how many kids on our team have not been voted first team all conference because the rest of the coaches, it's an anti-Connecticut vote, not an anti-kid vote. Like, they know that kid deserves to be on that team, but I'm not going to vote for him because there's too many Connecticut kids. Okay, so I always tell them, do not, under any circumstances, put any stock in awards that people vote on. So the only awards that matter are ones that are decided by what's on the scoreboard. Nobody gets a vote there.
Who has had the most improved year from day one to now?
Well, you could go two ways. You could say, Azure, because she didn't play at all last year. So she would be a newcomer that you say, man, that really improves your team. Or you say Crystal, who played a certain level last year and played at a whole nother level this year. So most improved, I would say Crystal. I would say from the beginning, from last year to this year, most improved, which is what, I mean, that's one category, that's one way to judge it. Or you can say from the beginning of the year till right now, who would that be? I would say, I don't know. That probably would have to be Azure. From the beginning to now. Mm-hmm. But he went from last year to this year, it'd be Crystal. Go, Crystal. And Crystal's gotten so much better, huh? It's hard here because we have expectations that no other program in America has. So if we meet our expectations, it's, well, atta girl, you guys are great. You did what everybody expects you to do. So how can you ever, when you're playing at UConn, exceed expectations?
It's a great question.
All you can do is fall short. So when people say, well, it's easy to coach at Connecticut, well, then why don't you come and try and see how many undefeated seasons you have? Because right now you're coaching a team that has better players than some of the teams you've lost to. So how do you explain that? You have the best players relative to the team you just played. So how'd you lose? Well, imagine if you did that here over and over and over again. So don't be fooled. What looks easy on the outside isn't so easy to get accomplished.
Over the course of the year, we've talked about some different teams and how certain teams can give your team more trouble than others. What type of team are you most concerned about heading into the tournament?
Generally speaking?
However you want.
The next one. That to me is how you you're able to navigate those games. So if you're saying the NCAA tournament, when the brackets come out and you look at the matchups and you go, oh, this is going to be hard. You just know it is. It happened last year. Last year it happened when the brackets came out, and I said, oh man, I can't believe that this is the way this has got to go. I said, Maryland's in our bracket, and that was, you know, they're a really good team that knows us a little bit. And then if it's not Maryland, then it's UCLA, who is is completely different than our team. And then you got Oregon, who's a lot like our team. So you're looking at those matchups and you're saying, man, why can't we get somebody that is completely off the wall that, you know, we could look at and go, they have no idea what we're going to do. Why do we have to play all these teams we've already? But that's what you get for playing the kind of schedule that we play. How are you going to play somebody that you haven't played when you play all the best teams in the country? And then last year when we looked at it, he said, of all the teams that might end up in the Final Four as a team that you beat by 100 the year before, that's not good. And for us, obviously, because of our size disadvantage in some ways and our depth, I think you got to look at which teams are capable of getting you into foul trouble if you're not careful, and which teams are doing things that you're going to struggle with, you know, either physically because of the way they play or strategically with the way they play. But I've gotten old enough to understand that whatever challenges we face having to play them, they face a bigger challenge sometimes, playing us. And I never used to think of it that way. And I remember somebody saying that, because I said, my God, we got this, we got that. And somebody said, what are you worried about? I said, this. And they go, well, don't you think they're worried about you? And I went, yeah, they are. Everybody on the team is really, really good at something. That thing, or those few things that you're great at, you have to be great at those things every day, every minute of every day, every possession, okay? You have to be great at the things you're really good at.
Last year it came down to 2 number 1 seeds and 2 number 2 seeds in the Final Four. The year before wasn't as obvious. So how do you see this year's Final Four playing out?
I think sometimes events occur. You know, the kid Christy Wallace at Baylor unfortunately got hurt, and that can change things for the NCAA tournament. So you don't know. Weird stuff happens during the tournament. And I think 2 years ago, it was really weird that you go in there and, you know, you've got 3 teams that, where did these guys come from, right? And is that going to happen more often? I don't know. It happened one year, it didn't happen the following year, so I don't know. It used to be that all 4 number 1 seeds were playing the NCAA tournament all the time in the championship game, in the championship weekend. I think there's a lot more variables this year than there have been in the past.
A lot of people, though, seem to have this inkling that it might come down to Mississippi State and Connecticut again.
Maybe. But things don't always turn out the way people plan. Who do you think has an advantage in that game?
Connecticut, because they're coming off of a loss.
Yeah?
Yes, I think that can...
Or Mississippi State, because we know we can beat these guys. We already did. You can always make an argument that when two teams that just played last season go into a game the following season, that they're not the same teams. So you go in and you go, don't worry about who you think you might want to play. Don't root against somebody. Don't ever, in the NCAA tournament, don't ever watch a game and root against the team. Because the minute you do, that team will win and then they will kick your butt.
Let's get you 4 guys up here again. Let's get 4 guys up here again. Okay, when we run flares. Z, you're gonna have to fight harder in there if you want the ball. That's not gonna work.
Do you have a good sense of what you can expect from your team when the tournament kicks off March 16th?
I don't know. I usually don't know that until a couple days into practice. We'll have a pretty good idea. And then after the first game. After the first game, you go, okay, this is where I think our heads are at right now. Because that's what it's all about at that point. It really is about where are you mentally? Because the physical part's done. You're not getting any better at this time of the year. You are what you are. So are you in the right frame of mind or are you in the wrong frame of mind? And that's our job as coaches, to get our players in the right frame of mind.
You just can't panic. Don't get rushed. When things get like this and the game's on the line and it's crazy, you have to slow everything down. You have to be like, because it's already, your adrenaline's already going, you got to figure out a way to just be.
We're going into the game like Crystal. We'll have to give Crystal the benefit of the doubt because she played in all of the NCAA games last year. We got a lot of players that didn't play in any NCAA games last year, including Azure. So you can't sit there and go, we got this. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Don't know.
The Geno Auriemma Show is presented by UConn Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, team doctors for the UConn Huskies.